Have you ever just looked at your life and thought, what if we just left? Like actually left. Sold the house, pulled the kids out of school, and moved onto a boat? Well, that's exactly what today's guest did. Jen and Mornay Sherry packed up their lives in South Carolina, bought a catamaran called Liquid Sunshine, and set sail with their 2 boys for the Caribbean and beyond. What was supposed to be a 1-year adventure is now going on 2. They share what it's really like to live this life, how to sail, how to homeschool your kids, and how to work a full-time job from a boat. Yes, Jen actually has a job. These are the kind of people we love on this show. They looked at the usual life path, decided it wasn't for them, and then did what everyone said couldn't be done. Let's get into it. Liquid Sunshine, Jen and Mornay, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, so we met Jen and Mornay in Switzerland many years ago. We were all hiking. You guys were with your 2 awesome little boys, and who are much bigger now. And we were without kids at the time. We didn't have them yet. But we crossed paths, and we were both adventurers, and we stayed in touch. And now you are on the greatest adventure yet. You're on Liquid Sunshine. Your Lagoon 450, is it?
Correct.
And where are you parked right now?
We are in a place called Rudder Cut Cay in the Exumas in the Bahamas. And we arrived here yesterday and got a nice little snorkel in with the underwater mermaid and piano. So we're just living the dream out here in perfectly clear water, and a little windy outside today, but still a beautiful day.
So this is amazing. This is technology at its finest. You're on a boat in the middle of, well, not just in the middle of the ocean, but in the water. And we have perfect video and audio feed thanks to Starlink. But I would love for you guys to share your story, the motivation of what brought you here, because it's been now almost 2 years of being on this boat.
Yeah, I can say that. My whole life I was brought up and raised in Africa, moved to America, and we just looked back recently. I've never stayed any place longer than 10 years, which was just wild. And the longest was San Diego. After that, of course, selling the business and all, we went to Massachusetts, we went to South Carolina. And in South Carolina, I came down sick, and we had been living that life, trying to chase the perfect life. And when I was sick, I realized that it was not so perfect. It was really just chasing this golden coin over and over and over again. And I kind of had my little conversation with God and said, hey, if I make it through, we're gonna live life differently. And so I obviously made it through. It was a nice surprise. And so then we said, hey, what do you think about sailing on a boat for a year?
And I told him he was crazy.
So after a little more, convincing and all that kind of stuff, we decided to do it for a year. We bought the boat in St. Thomas, and I sailed it down from there. The family met me all the way down in Grenada, and I didn't want them to experience that first long trip as their first taste of, blue water sailing. It ended up being the right decision. We had a lot of things go right and wrong on that first maiden trip. But then we got the family aboard, and what do you know? 1 year turned into 2 years and turned into our big announcement coming up soon. So here we are.
Yeah, we're 4,000 miles in, just over 4,000 nautical miles is what they call it.
Speak for yourself.
Well, he has more. There's a whole thing with sailors that they earn their sparrows, which we could talk about. But as a family, we're just over 4,000 nautical miles that we've traveled in almost 2 years. We've been to 18 countries and about 32 islands, because as you may or may not know, but many of the Caribbean islands, like the island of Grenada has multiple islands that they own. So, but it's considered one country. So many of the Caribbean islands are like that.
So you tell me about, because people are saying, all right, this guy just bought a boat, hopped his family onto it and sailed it. But were you a sailor before buying this boat?
Yeah. I kind of, I grew up, once I moved to the United States, I grew up in New England. And whether it was sailing on neighbors' lasers, opties, or whatever it may be, my family themselves weren't sailors, but I kind of, by guilty of association, got to learn, pretty much the basics of all the sailing, and had crewed a couple boats. Before jumping on the boat, I went down to Florida and I took sailing classes, if you will, our 101, 103, 104, 108, 110, 112, and 14, I think. And it was kind of a wild ride because they said nobody has ever done this in a week. And I was like, hold my beer. Showed up, took the classes, passed them well above 95 percentile on all the tests. And within a week, I was certified to sail catamarans around the world.
Now, not every sailor or cruiser does that. He just really wanted, because we have a family on board, he wanted to make sure that you had every tool in your toolbox, behind us in those certifications. So, but some people just don't. They just go in and wing it.
And then the real reason, it helps on insurance. So if you have all the certifications, etc., insurance companies know you're not a bozo going out there trying to, pull a Jack Sparrow.
So what's, with all those classes and certifications, what's like the minimum that people would need to get started? How long would that typically take?
They don't need anything, which is really kind of wild. If you own a private craft, it's suggested you take a boating safety course. And it's suggested that you take your ASA 101s, and there's different numbers for different kinds of sailing, because we were going to be doing coastline sailing, blue water cruising, and we were on a catamaran. There were specific numbers appropriate to those. But obviously the basic courses of understanding the buoys, understanding the rights of traffic, if you will, and what to do when stuff doesn't go well. But the classes were also great in the effect of how to provision properly, how to make sure you have 5 gallons of water per person per day, because that's typical usage. So you kind of learn everything as well as paper charting. So if, for instance, your electronics all went defunct, you'd have a way to at least navigate to somewhere safe where you can call for help.
And Jen, what was your experience like before this?
So I grew up on power boats. I had never sailed. We did charter a catamaran where somebody else was our captain for a week to kind of get a fit for the size of boat we would want for our family, what we'd be comfortable with, would we even like it? So that was kind of our last and final test when we agreed as a family to make this big jump and this big decision. And so, because you could have a monohull, which is a single hull boat, or a catamaran, which is 2, like we have. And ultimately, because I didn't come from a sailing background, Mornay felt very strongly that us as a family would be happier in a catamaran. There's typically more space. It doesn't do the lean, if you will, if you're familiar with sailing. The listing. And so, and ultimately I think it's been, this boat has been such a great fit for our family, and a lot of families choose this model for those exact reasons. We have 3 bedrooms, a living room, and then lots of outdoor spaces, and even our fly bridge, which is like an upstairs helm, or where you drive the boat. We were just saying even last night, like we use it all the time, and you can see everything from there. So I think everything goes back to safety, and that's how I was able to feel most comfortable, because he made me feel most comfortable. He was like, okay, we're going to start with the catamaran. I'm going to get these extra certifications. We had many, many safety briefings with the kids in the beginning and set what he calls SOPs, standard operating procedures. And it's, been invaluable living on a boat, because you really have to set a lot of those things early. Like, we have 2 boys, they can't pee outside at night. That's just a safety hazard.
That things to think
Very
about.
specific rules, but it does make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. We have some friends sailing with us, and they're rather new. They're from Norway, and Sweden, and they have this big cat, and they've been following us. And this morning they wanted to leave to another island and wait for us there, rather than peruse through the smaller uncharted islands adventurously. And that's okay. Everyone has their own passage. But they are usually late risers. And they called me early this morning and said, what time should I leave? And I said, well, due to the tides and the waves and the wind direction, you should be leaving right now.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, okay. And they kind of took it lightly. They left only 1 hour later. And he messaged me and he goes, oh my goodness, it's like rock and roll out here. He goes, I've never seen waves like this. And it's something that, you have to take seriously when you're the captain of the boat. As much as we love to enjoy the, hey, it's fun and life is great, we're in the sun, and I'm sure there's those Instagram, sounds that it's like, it's all rainbows and sunshine out here. And you're like,
most of it is.
And you're like, this is such BS because I'm having to fix toilets and fix engines and fix, and then the greatest risk, but being prepared negates it, is the safety of your crew, right? As a captain of a boat, you're ultimately responsible. And when that crew's your family, you want to talk about some crazy pressure. I mean, I'm only 29 and look at me. It's just joking. But it's wild because at night before a major crossing, I don't sleep very well because I want to make sure everything is prepped. And so it's great for OCD people, but it can also be bad for OCD people. If you think OCD should be CDO because it's alphabetized, then you're going to be a great sailor.
Now, Jen, you talked about the test trip. Can you tell us what that was? How long was this test trip?
Yeah, we did a week. Obviously we'd done a lot of sailing research and into the lifestyle. We talked to a lot of other families that were doing it that were so kind and answered all of our questions, just as we now do with other families. But our test trip was only basically 10 days long, and on a smaller catamaran than we ended up buying. And I think that was our decision maker, that we couldn't be on a boat as small as it was, but we really learned the basics. And oh my gosh, there's a lot we don't know. But it also opened up the doors for how much fun and how adventurous and awesome this opportunity would be.
Yeah, that calls out for someone super important. If anyone else is trying to take on this lifestyle, I made a friend for life early.
Yes.
His name's Brandon. They come from _Everyday Saturday. They cruised the Caribbean and the Bahamas for 4 years. And weirdly, we switched places. Yeah. We were sitting in Charleston and messaging them about, hey, this crazy and awesome lifestyle you're into. Tell us all about it and give us all the hints and clues. Yeah. And, we met them in Grenada, but they were headed north and we were headed south. And so it was like, 2 ships passing at night, if you will.
But they answered every question.
And what's great now is they had the company called the Cruisers Co. or the Cruisers Company. And they actually help, because they were so informative and so great, they help new cruisers learn all the stuff you need to know. Because a lot of people get out here and they're like, great, I have lots of money, I can do this, but they know nothing about provisioning or, planning seasonal trips, making sure you're back out of the hurricane season in time, and then understanding what a crossing's like. It's not like driving a car and going, hey, we're going from point A to point B, let's make a straight line. And that's something you'll see a lot of new cruisers learn, because each area in the world is different to sail. So the prep, I can tell you right now, we did not prep enough. Jen and the kids were definitely surprised, because the first trip, I think we were in 3-foot waves at 6 seconds, and it was for 12 hours, and it was into it, right? So we couldn't sail, we had to motor. And the boat does rock, because even though we're 46 foot long, the family was a little nervous on the first trip. And we got to Trinidad, they were like, oh my God. And so for me, it was like, well, we got to get used to this, because this was easy.
Yeah.
Right.
You just don't realize, like, even some of the prep, you need to make sure you have enough diesel on your big boat. You need to have enough gasoline for your little boat, your dinghy, and then you have to, as Mo said, like, you have to have enough water. Like, our water maker just died, right? So we have to plan. Normally we just make our own water, not a big deal. But now we're planning for that. You have to plan your day based on power. We have a lot of solar power to, you know, support all these wonderful things that we like to do with technology, but you have to plan for that. And then when it comes to the actual passage, Captain has to plan the trip and all the things he talked about. But then we have to truly batten down. Everybody as a kid in pirate movies and things, you've heard, you know, batten the hatches, you really have to. I mean, even yesterday, it was a 5-hour passage. The weather report and all the technology that's out there, the seas were much worse than what they said that they were. The winds were worse. The seas were bigger. And, you know, see, even though you put, you know, you batten down the TVs in our case, not every sailors have TVs, but you have to make sure the TVs aren't going to fall. You have to make, like, our olive oil fell yesterday and broke. So it's like,
oh, that's the
one. That's a rough one.
That's a tough cleanup.
Yes.
Well, as she said, we've been cruising 2 years and she has not learned yet.
Well, so you said you didn't prep enough. What would you have done differently?
To be honest with you, I would have prepped more on the fixing stuff. I would have educated myself more on, like, our first problem, no doubt. Like, I'm going to share something that probably not everyone wants to hear, but on a boat, you use toilet paper, but it doesn't go in the toilet. Right? And everyone's like, you're kidding me. We have guests on board and they're like, are you serious? That's so gross. And it goes in a paper bag inside of a trash bag, right? And you do that because when you're 10 miles offshore and everything needs to be dropped out of the tanks, the paper bag goes overboard with it. And the reason being, toilet paper can clog up the toilet so badly. And if you've ever been on a rocking boat at sea without a toilet and having to fix it, I can tell you this is probably one of the worst jobs ever. Yeah. And I've had to do it several times. If we're inshore, I'd rather pay the $100 and get someone else to do it.
And we have electric flush toilets. Like, they're pretty much like an on land toilet. And the original owners of the boat told us, hey, don't worry about it. You can use toilet paper. And the first week we clogged a toilet and we had to pay a guy $100. And he goes, no. I don't care what fancy boat toilet you have. None of them will take toilet paper.
Yes, we've heard that. Every boat that we've only rented a few, and every time they're like, do not put anything that doesn't come out of you in the toilet.
Yeah, I have been on a boat where the toilet was clogged. It was a very small monohull in Croatia with 9 girls. To this day, no one has fessed up to who it was, but it was terrible. I will say it was terrible. People were coming on the boat and they were like, oh, this is disgusting.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not fun. But again, I would have learned more about how to fix those problems. I would love to have learned more about electric, being an electrician or fixing electric things. As a homeowner, I always just called the electrician and never even thought twice to maybe I should learn a little about this. I can tell you that if you are good at this kind of stuff, like plumbing, electric work, fiberglass work, you're going to fit in great. You're going to actually be a great source for all your friends. You will make a lot of friends and they will call upon you. I promise you. But
don't tempt me.
I know. I'm like, this guy right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, those are the things I wish I had poured more of my brain into. As I've said time and time before, when people ask, you're cruising the world, what's that like? And I go, the sailing? And they're like, yeah, is it scary? I'm like, the sailing is easy. That is the easiest part. And I don't want to, there's going to be some 40-year sailor out there being a curmudgeon and going, sailing's not easy, my boy. It's relatively easy compared to all the other stuff that you have to do on a boat. And I think that educating my family more about that too would have been a lot easier transition. Hey boys, time to shine some stainless. Like, I'll tell you a great story. I'm up the mast, our radar is down, the boat is swaying in the waves, and it's not fun to be 70 feet up off the deck and hanging by a line. And I have this bag that I drop down for everyone to hand me tools should I need something different, and so I can hoist it back up. And so I yelled at Jen, I need a 10 millimeter socket wrench. She's like, okay. And Jen disappears, and I'm up there like 15 minutes, and I'm like, I know I laid it all out. I know it says 10 millimeters on it, and she comes back to me, and she's like, "What's a socket wrench?" And she goes, "Is it one of these?" I'm like, "No, that's a spanner." And so now I'm having to teach tool nomenclature from 70 feet up. And so, there's that prep you don't think about. I think that ever before, and we've all heard the saying, assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So don't make any big assumptions about coming out here and thinking everyone knows what to do. You really must go over everything and educate.
And speaking of education, I'm just so amazed at what you guys are doing with your kids. Because when you think about sailing as a family, I mean, you're raising 2 young boys, and raising kids is a challenge anywhere in the world. But now you're on this boat in the ocean. How, what are their jobs? What are they learning? And also, how are you schooling them?
I'll let Jen start with the schooling side because, to be honest, she does about 90% of it. I'm the gym coach. So I handle gym period. She handles all the educational side.
We have utilized Khan Academy, which is an online platform, and it's free, which is fantastic. And it's work at our own pace. I think those are some key things. We did a lot of research, and I talked to a lot of other cruisers and sailors that use different programs for homeschool. And half of which use programs that are structured and scheduled. Ours is open. We can work at our own pace, and that was key for us because it allows us the freedoms that we wanted in the sailing lifestyle. We didn't want to be stuck to an exact schedule every day, and Khan Academy allows us to do that. It allows us to choose specific courses at their grade levels, but they can work ahead. So our boys are 10 and 12 years old, and they're in 4th and 7th grade. And especially our 7th grader, he chooses his courses and then can work through. We're almost done with school for the year, and it's, weeks before, so the school year is actually out. So we love that. And then on Fridays, because we use an online platform, on Fridays, we do a No Tech Friday. And what that means for us as a family is that, especially when we're with other kid boats, is that we try to do meetups on Fridays with other homeschoolers. And we will organize things such as scavenger hunts, obstacle courses. We did an egg drop challenge where all the kids had to design something to drop an egg in to see if it would survive, right? And they've done lava flow and sand flow. And
mind you, the egg drop thing, like we had to do like 30 rounds because all the kids are actually super smart.
So good.
And they had such great designs that it's like, oh, did yours break? No. And did yours break? No. And so we're like, okay, so how do we get even higher than we're getting? And that became an issue. So it started to become like, with a little force, and but it's been fun. Jen's really stood in and handled the education side with the kids wonderfully. To address, like, what are they learning? It is unreal. I mean, I could go on, but they're learning different cultures. They're learning parts of different languages. They're learning different foods. They're learning different animals, different customs. And they're also learning how to be responsible in a team. Because a large reason we do this is I wanted to prove to our family that we can do difficult things. I've grown up learning that, yes, I personally can do difficult things, but I wanted to instill that in our children. And teaching them that is everything. Because the saying I like to have with them is there's, I can't do something, they'll tend to say. And I'll go, I'd prefer if you worded it, I'm having difficulty doing something. Because can't, you're making a self-decision of it's not possible for me to do this. And I'm having difficulty is really asking for help, right? And help is necessary on a boat. Could I sail this boat single-handedly? Possibly. Yeah, I believe I could, but it would be incredibly difficult without having the crew around me, and them knowing what to do makes it just so much easier. So I'd say with the boys, teaching them that is massive, you know. And then it's not militant, but it's a little more rigid in life because safety is always such a thing that, you know, we have a couple things out there, you know, like what part of your body makes you the smartest? And they like to say the brain, and I tell them, no, it's the ears. The ears are the point of input, you know, where if you don't listen, you're not learning. And so that's been huge because the boys now, if I'm like, gentlemen, wherever they are on the boat, they're like, yes, Dad, you know, and they realize because at any point it could be serious. You know, the other day I was having a nap and the wind changed in my nap, and we almost ended up at the Coco Club's aqua park because the boat had swung around the anchor, and we were literally, I could step onto their aqua club. And I'm like, we kind of have to get out of here. So it was like, gentlemen, a quick whistle, and everyone was to deck. And we were able to get out of there safely and go place our boat in a more appropriate place for the winds. So they're learning to do hard things. And we let them do dangerous things, but we let them do dangerous things carefully. Because everything else, as I said, if you're uncomfortable, you're growing. If you're comfortable, you don't need anything.
I want to add one more thing because I think it's so important that I feel like has been a shift since we've been on the boat is just simple manners, right? We get to be with our boys so much that like some of the small things that I am so enormously proud of is the fact that we will meet new people, and we meet new people all the time, every day. And our boys will both walk up to somebody, to an adult or kid, put out their hand, give a proper handshake, look somebody in the eye, tell them their name, ask them theirs, say nice to meet you. Some very, very basic old skills that I feel like are just getting lost in this like screen time era. And to be able to really support that and those sort of more traditional beliefs is so important to us because we want them to be kind adults.
Well, we can go back to, the simplicity. What are they learning? They're actually learning to be men. They're learning to be young men, humans, I should say, because, you know, at home, and I won't say where because I don't want to bring on drama to anyone, but at home, the kids have awful manners. They run around and I'll tell my dad on you, and you're just like, wow. I remember when I was a kid, if I badmouthed a neighbor's parent, you know, one would come looking for me, and I would, you know, need to apologize rather quickly. No, our boys are really becoming proud versions of what we want to create.
It's interesting you say that because it kind of resonates with something that we have realized, and it's the idea, and some of it comes from a book called Hunt, Gather, Parent, and it's things we saw in Italy recently as we were abroad. It's the general idea that it's okay to tell your parent or tell your kids, like, hey, you're part of this family. There are things that are required of you. I think it goes against somewhat of this American modern belief of like kids need to be kids and their space needs to be protected and they need to have these toys. And it's like, no, they can come with you into as simple, you know, for us, come into the kitchen. We're making breakfast. Come help us. You know, if you don't want to, just sit there, whatever. If you do, here's some plates. Help me mix the eggs. You guys are on a much higher level of, hey, we're sailing this boat. Like, I need you to grab this, get me a 10 millimeter socket wrench. Like, yeah. And it's all of that stuff is fine. And in reality, the kids do want to help. They want to be a part of something bigger. The idea of us constantly pushing them away, saying like, I'm going to go do this while you play, makes them feel like they're not a part of it. And so it's amazing. It's just a funny idea that's like, it's been come into our world and we hear it over and over and over again. And I think it's kind of the pendulum swinging back of this, you know, if you've read Jonathan Haidt's like Anxious Generation, of all the screen time that we went to, and now parents and society are pushing back and going back to this old school mentality.
It makes me think about meaning, because a lot of people lose meaning in life, especially I think young adults and teenagers, kids in their 20s too, are like, what is the meaning? And we think kids are putting their faces in a phone and they think they're going to find it scrolling somewhere. But the fact that kids can be a part of the family, a part of the team, like you guys talked about it, they have meaning in life. And humans need that at any age. And I feel like you are finding that so much together. And I think a shared meaning with a family is like the ultimate experience that you can have as a human.
Yeah, no, fully agree. I mean, we do have safety briefings before every, trip, because I explain to them the weather, the wind, what I'm going to need. But I'll tell you, like, talk about growth and learning. Atticus has just exploded. He's the dinghy Uber driver now.
He's 12.
He is 12 years old, and he handles that dinghy better than Jen, better than most adults around. He is my first mate. Like, if the proverbial what's hitting the fan, I call Atticus.
Share your dinghy story.
So he saved our boat.
Well, I was gonna say that you guys saved a dinghy.
Oh well, no. That too. Yeah, We've saved a few boats, but
you help a lot of people out here.
Atticus actually saved our boat, and it was a scary moment. We were coming into Grenada at the end of our first year, and we had decided to go back to Grenada, and we had only one engine running. Now, in a catamaran, that's like a duck having one leg. It kind of wants to swim in circles. And so you have to really play at the helm and steer accordingly. But grabbing something like a mooring ball, it becomes about 10x more difficult. And Jen had not dropped a mooring ball all year. And the one time, of course, that, we need this mooring ball grabbed, she unfortunately missed the mooring ball. This wasn't a big deal. It was more in the position it put us in, because now we could only do half circles, and the waves were bringing us closer to rocks and a concrete dock that we could not fend off. We're a 40,000 pound vessel. So if you're thinking, hey, I'll just put my arms out to stop it, both arms are going to break. Atticus, being able to listen to quick direct orders, I told him, drop the dinghy. He runs to the back. Him and Jen drop the dinghy. He hops out in the dinghy, and I tell him, ram my starboard bow. Yeah. Like, run into it. It's an inflatable dinghy, but run into it and push full engine as hard as you can, because I'm going to give full engine on my port side engine, which would normally make me turn right, but because of him, we were trying to offset. And we missed the dock literally by about 8 feet, and the rocks. He saved the day. And then the next day coming in, we're like, how are we going to land this on the dock with only one engine? And the winds are howling, and we have currents. And so we tied the dinghy to the side of the boat, and put the dinghy all the way to the back, basically lashed it to the stern and the mid cleats. And we used the dinghy as the second engine. So Atticus is down there with the outboard. And I'm like, I need, more power on starboard. And he's like, okay,
They agreed on commands
and, through hand signals and commands, we were able to land the boat exceptionally. And everyone on dock was like, how did you guys just do that? And it was one of those moments that I think, gave him that level of identity or meaning, and confidence. Confidence and responsibility both go hand in hand. If you've done something wrong, taking responsibility will give you more confidence the next time owning up to these kind of things. And these boys have really learned that part about sea life, which is so important. But, we've gone so deep. I'll also tell you, they've learned to have fun.
Oh my gosh. We played at an underwater piano. It's an underwater piano that they've dropped a mermaid sculpture on in the Bahamas. And they played music like they were musicians underwater. Yesterday.
They were on there, and most of the tourists, will snorkel down and check it out because they haven't been free diving. They don't understand the whole process. And Atticus is down there, on the piano playing, and I'm sitting next to him getting the footage. And like today he wants to go back. He wants to put on this cheap tux he used for Halloween. Yeah. And he wants to free dive down, sit there and pretend
so great.
Piano.
He's gonna put a weight belt. He's got the whole thing figured out.
But I mean, this is the other part. He's just started to take on social media, and we, of course, um, we monitor that and guide, but we let him pretty much create all his own content and edit it. And we feel that's important. You have to be a storyteller in life, whether it's for social media or for anything you want to teach or speak to others. If you can't communicate well, I promise you're not going to be very successful at sharing your story.
That's amazing. I mean, that's just I can only picture like.
Well, hopefully we'll see it on social media soon.
No,
the visual of that is so epic.
I was thinking more the idea of your kid just going down there and having that confidence. I mean,
that
obviously the exact experience. Yes, that's going to be an amazing thing to see. But it's just, I mean, to do all that, obviously our kids are a little young. I mean, not saying that we can't do it, but I think it'd be a little bit more fun as they get older. But we spoke, as we spoke earlier this week, I did a quick search and I told Colette, I was like, I looked up the boats and I was like, I mean, if we sold our house, like it's not ridiculous.
No, that's what we did. I mean, we sold our house. We kind of, Jen took a step back. She still works. We had a business. We ended up selling our business. We've done all sorts of things to make this happen. And I'll tell you my biggest regret, once we realized what this life was, my biggest regret was, why didn't we do this sooner? Like, I swear that is still my biggest regret, because we have some friends who have, how old is Rue? Or how old were
they're like 5 and 3, little.
When they started, though.
He was about 6 months, their youngest one, when they started.
They started 6 months and 3 years old, and they're now 3 and 6. And
they've gone across the Atlantic, across the Pacific. Now they're in French Polynesia or New Zealand or something by now.
Well, and the little 3-year-old free dives to like 8-10 feet.
Crazy.
No problem. And that those kids are going to be prepared for life, because they've done the hard things so early that the rest of life comes easy. I always tell Atticus, when he's not so happy about doing work around the boat, I'm like, you realize a job is doing that for 8 hours. And he's like, oh, okay, what can I do to avoid that thing? Yeah. And I said, well, you kind of work for yourself. You go out and create for you. And that's a big lesson in our family.
Some people are going to be curious. Jen, could you just share, because you work remotely, just as much as you can share about how you do that and what you're responsible for?
Yeah, so I've been at the same company a very long time. And so, it was sort of an easy transition, because there was, nothing new to learn. I did take a little bit of a step back in the sense that I slowed down my travel because I traveled quite a bit for work, and I stopped managing people. So that was kind of the differences. And other than that, essentially,
she still manages people.
I do. And so we have a schedule just like anybody else, or just like regular work. I work regular hours. I'm available. Our Starlink is great, as you guys can see. And so that allows me to make all my calls, video calls, meetings, etc. I do travel a little bit some, and we just plan according to what island we'll be at, to fly out of. And that's always been, actually, in 2 years, it's been really easy to manage. And it gives us the flexibility to be here and to do what we love, and allows me time also with the step back to be able to handle the homeschool, so we have time for the education side of things.
Now I'm curious, when you went, because this is something we talk a lot about with people, like when you actually went to your company and said, this is what I'm going to do, how did you do that? And what was like the response?
It was so hard. I did it in person. And I am a non-confrontational person, so it's probably the hardest thing of this whole situation. And thankfully, we are a adventurous family, obviously before moving to a sailboat 2 years ago. And so my boss was not surprised. He was like, okay, what are the Sherrys doing next? And I'm just entirely grateful that he's always been supportive of that. And so he said, well, you'll be in the same time zone as you were in Charleston, in general, being in the Caribbean. And so it's fairly easy to manage, and we'll figure it out, And so, but again, I had that history and had been there and proven myself for long enough that I think really stands behind it. Because when I get asked, oh, how do you work? For me, it was fairly straightforward. There are challenging times. there are some days where I end up taking a day off because I know our passage is going to be long, rough, whatever, all the normal things, where it makes it impossible to work. But those have been few and far between. When we have friends come visit, I take those days off just like you would. Or if we have doctor's appointments, I take those hours off. So I run it much like you would if you were working from land. And again, all the same technology is here. So it really doesn't make much difference other than my office view is much prettier.
Yes, it's a work from anywhere. I think one of the biggest things that surprised me when we were chatting the other day was how social this life is for you and your boys. Because I think a lot of people can envision, okay, this family's on a boat and they're only hanging out with each other and they're not interacting with anyone else and they're homeschooling. It sounds like it's the complete opposite of that. So tell me all about that.
I almost get overwhelmed sometimes. Like cause I'm introverted and I love people and I love meeting new people, but I will look at him and I'll say, it is a Tuesday night. Like, we've made dinner. Can we just stay in? Because there are so many wonderful cruising friends that we have met, not only retired couples, but certainly families. And it has been, I knew it was going to be great because we had done a lot of research before, but we really had zero idea how great it truly is and how many friends for life we've met. Yeah. So I know.
So this is just the Exumas where we are, which are a portion of the Bahamas. Every one of these symbols,
I'll send them a screenshot too, so they have it. But
every one of those symbols is a cruising boat, and a lot of them are families. That's just in the Exumas.
Wow!
It's like
so for people listening, it's an app and it shows thousands of people within right around them, basically.
Yes.
That's the Caribbean. So there are just thousands of cruisers out there, and they're not just all American or English. We've met people from Russia, from Sweden, from Hungary. I mean, some of the countries you least expect, or some of the states you least expect. We have met so many people from Tennessee, and we're like, you guys for sure did not grow up sailing. And, they're like, no, we just decided to figure it out. And it's another one, the Dakotas. Is it North Dakota?
Yeah.
No, Idaho. Idaho has,
Ohio?
honestly, we know about 10 boats from Idaho. And you could probably thank Brandon from Everyday Saturday. He's originally from Idaho.
He convinced them all.
I think they all decided to follow him. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the cruising community, there's always somebody throwing a dinner for the local friends on their boat, and it's like everybody takes turns. The kids every day, steal the dinghy and run off to go play with whoever is around. And that's huge too, because it's, school, you go to school, it's like, okay, you have to hang around everyone the same age as you, and we want you talking as little as possible. And follow these rules and
sit still.
Sit still. And you move as slow as the slowest child in the class. When Jen talks about pace, you can take slower on the stuff you're not great at, and the stuff you're great at, you don't have to wait. So progression is really a lot faster, and then they get more time for the social kind of feel about it. They get to go play with the kids who all have their skills that they share and inspire with our kids. Like one of the boys is a big fisherman, and Atticus has, now taken up fishing in a huge way and learning so much from somebody who really knows how to fish. And so when they say it takes a village to raise a child, our village is so world encompassing with so many different talents and inspirations. It's way better than being stationary in a landlocked space where you only have the immediate surrounding that never changes.
Now, of all the amazing things, which I think you guys are just like a sales pitch for this sailing world, what are some of the what is there something you're either like, man, I really miss this from home, or like what are some of the days you're like, I have had doubts, or any of that?
There's two things for me. One is family. You know what I mean? I really miss my family. My dad was really sick and passed away, unfortunately, last year. And not being able to be there every day for me, because I grew up in a very close-knit family. While I know that he is incredibly proud of what we're doing and what we're sharing and the life we're providing for our kids and how different it was from my upbringing, that's tough. And I think the only other thing that really gets under my skin most days is lack of space. So we have so much stuff.
And we don't mean
boat.
Personal space.
Yes.
We mean storage.
Legitimately, yesterday is a great example. We are missing Atticus's favorite free diving mask and snorkel. We have it. I had just put it away the night before, and it is missing in a big hatch, right? And that we need to pull everything out today and hunt it down. So the space thing, I think, because you have limited storage space.
That points to one thing. Organization. If you are not organized, please don't come sailing.
Oh, yes.
Okay? Because otherwise life ends up being a hide and go seek every day for everything. So one thing I will say about boating life is everything has its place and must be returned to its place. Because if you don't, it's a virtual nightmare. I mean, like every time you have a little project, you need to find a certain tool. You need to know where that kind of stuff is. But I mean,
do you miss anything? What do you miss?
I honestly, there is not very much that I miss. In the 2 years, I haven't had one moment that made me go, huh. Okay, I'll tell you, I'll break down. I miss a hot
a tub.
A hot tub?
Just a tub.
Yeah.
And we get that every once in a while because we go to a resort and we'll, stay in a hotel room. But honestly, no. I can tell you the great things that I go, this is why we're doing that. I mean, we had a giant whale, maybe 15 feet from our boat, breach and splash and give us the greatest show. We have dolphins daily. I mean, one swam up to Atticus and they had an interaction for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, well, what do? I'm a protective dad. Do I jump in and, worry that this dolphin could be aggressive or strange? Or do I just let it happen? And those moments are insane. They way outweigh all of the stuff that gives you trepidation or fear or regret. It's unreal. I mean, he got scuba certified while on this adventure of the past 2 years. And we've had dives where, it's amazing to see something once in a lifetime underwater. But to share that with your son is like, you kind of get a little misty in the eyes and you're like, whoa, brah, that was amazing, right? High five. And he's like, yeah, why are you tearing up? And you're like, oh, must have been the salt in the eyes. But it's magic moments like that. It truly is.
I think the kids get asked, I don't feel in general they miss anything. They connect with their friends. They have video games when we allow. And but the biggest question the kids get is, oh my gosh, like, how do you get food? How do you get snacks? And that always makes me laugh because that's one thing I learned very early in this is like snacks. What I said is provisioning. And so when Bahamas, there's not a whole lot of the things that you like, right? So you plan ahead. We shopped heavy in Puerto Rico. Well, there's one. That's one.
There's a snack kit. Right.
As a mom, I've learned to hide some things and then bring them out over time, right? But I mean, you shop at grocery stores and Costco,
meat sticks.
These are truly Costco beef jerky sticks. So,
Welch's fruit gummies, Joyride candy, more meat sticks, Mr. Beast style.
Healthier snacks,
Nutri-Grain bars.
Yeah. So you do have to. It takes more planning, which is actually outside of my, wheelhouse. And I'm not I like to be more spontaneous and so we do have to plan. When birthdays are coming, you have to plan to ship things in early and shop where you can. And so you're planning ahead constantly, but you get into that rhythm so easily.
And then hiding kids' birthday presents because their birthday hasn't come yet is impossible. So you kind of have to, find the right place to hide things and make sure they don't go there. But
all worth it.
There's all sorts of little quirks about this life that you're like, oh, I didn't really ever think that would be a problem. You know what I mean? Like the birthday presents, the Christmas presents, and then setting up for all the holidays. You know, my wife is a big holiday person, so we have enough storage taken up by all the holiday decoration. And I joke because I say, oh, it must be close to Christmas because Christmas just threw up on the boat. Yeah. And, you know, but there's always pumpkins, and she does such a great job, like with the Easter eggs. We had a big hunt for all the other kids, and yeah, it's wild.
Wow, I love all of that. It's just such a beautiful story. Did you want to ask anything else?
Well, I want to know, you have such a great story and your kids have such a great story, and you now have social media that you're sharing these stories on, and I'm sure our listeners want to follow along. So where can they find you?
All right. So if you are on Instagram, it's SV_liquid_sunshine. Sorry, there's so many, you know, and the SV stands for Sailing Vessel. On Facebook, it's just SV Liquid Sunshine, one whole word. Our son, who's making us look like we're mental midgets, he's really doing well. He's Boy Meets Ocean, and that's this just on Instagram and now TikTok, I think. And his brother, who's Nixon, is nautical_Nixon. We wanted to say naughty Nixon, but he wasn't going with it. You know, it's UTI, but no, it's nautical_Nixon. And they all, you know, Nixon a little less because he just wants to have one and be like his bro.
He's 10, and he always says achievement unlocked. So he's learning things that are age appropriate and social media age appropriate, and connecting that way.
And then Addie is all day, every day about, oh, I know how to make great content. And so he's really getting into that, and he's crushing it. But yeah, we would always welcome new followers, and come check out our story. There's always fun. Not always serious, and not just like, how do I fix a broken toilet? We've got some pretty cool videos you guys might want to check out.
I have another question. I want you to picture your life back in South Carolina and just feel that for a second, and what it would be like with your boys if you were back there. Okay. Come back now. You are back on Liquid Sunshine. What was the feeling that came up when you thought about what it would be like to go back there versus where you are now?
For me, as a captain, and you guys are gonna laugh, where's the boat and is it okay? You know, that's just the typical, nothing major on Charleston for me.
I think like my first thought was freedom for our boys. Freedom for them to learn.
Charleston?
No. Like from Charleston
to compare
to this life now.
Yeah.
Is I feel like we were so handcuffed to what we always called it the hamster wheel, and I would joke that we could tell you if you said, hey, can we have dinner, 3 weeks from this Tuesday at 6:00, we could tell you no because we would be at swim practice. I could tell you exactly. There was no spontaneity. It was really hard, without missing things out of the schedule. And that's where we worried the boys would miss. They don't. They love this freedom to plan their day, plan what they're going to do next.
Say hi.
Yeah.
Do you want to say hi to them real quick?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Nixie.
Come here, please. Sorry, guys.
So freedom, I think, just freedom
Gentlemen.
is the biggest difference, in everything from life A to life B.
Come say hi.
Hi guys. Guess what?
Hi guys.
Hi guys.
It's
been a few years.
This one's Nixon.
Hi.
So they're
What's up, dudes?
Hi.
One of you, I saw in the middle of Jungfrau, some had a problem with your pants. You couldn't keep them up when you were about 2 years old. Was it that? I couldn't remember the oldest. Well,
naughty Nixon.
Yes. Well, Jen and Mornay, you guys are truly an inspiration. You are living the dream to the highest level. Everything that we talk about together, individual to with other people and preach, you guys have done it all. You've looked at your life and said, what do I want? And then, Jen, you went to your boss and you said, I'm going to make this work. And that's the thing that we hear over and over again is people realize that they can have control of their lives no matter what their situation is. A lot of people are sitting in their office going, there's no way I could work on a boat. And you're a perfect example of doing that. And then there's no way I could take my kids. They're going to miss out. They're amazing athletes in swimming. And you said right there, they're having so much fun swimming. So you guys are truly an inspiration, and we love talking to you. And I'm so glad that our paths crossed almost 10 years ago. I still remember it like yesterday. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, it was more than happy to do it. It's a pleasure. We always love seeing you guys. And to be honest, you were a little bit of an early inspiration to
100%.
us. Like when
Oh, really?
Oh,
we were just out traveling on your normal family vacation through Europe, and I loved Switzerland as a kid. Decided to take them there. If you only knew what went on later with Switzerland is insane, but we'll talk about that a different time. But you guys proved to us that, hey, these guys are just sending it. You know, they're going
You're
out,
doing it.
chasing their dream and doing it. Like I remember you flew that drone for, you know, we were having a glass of wine and you're like, hey, I'll be right back. The light is perfect right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, love this guy, you know? And, you know, 10 minutes later, you came back and you're like, oh, so epic. That content was magic. And, you know, it made me go, dang, I have all these memories and I'm not capturing that content. And I come from the photo video world. So you guys inspired us to literally, you know, take a leap, go out, chase adventure, and document all of it.
Awesome.
well, it's come full circle now.
Yes.
Love it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys should come join us at some point. If you
Yes.
ever like it,
I
really
know
should.
we
come
should.
visit.
Yes. Well, we'll see them. We'll be up close to them.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
No worries.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're learning from and or enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. These are great free ways to support this podcast. Also, please subscribe to this podcast on both Spotify and Apple. On both of those platforms, you can leave us up to a 5-star review, which would help us out greatly. Please also check out the sponsors mentioned in today's episode. That's the best way to support this show. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please put those in the comment sections in YouTube. And yes, we do read all the comments.